Hello everyone and welcome back to the Retro Recall. I hope you're doing awesome. Today we have two desktop computers on the bench. A little different than the towers that we've been covering quite a bit on the channel, and I love when I get to see some desktop form factors here, specifically from good old Big Blue. That's right, IBM, before they became Lenovo that we know today. These computers specifically are e-waste systems. These were systems that were thrown to the wayside, going to be going for recycling, that we got from that big e-waste haul right there. The scope for today's video is going to be to go over each one of these systems, find out exactly what's in them in terms of specs, see the condition of them, are they decent, are they worth saving, and see if we can get them to post. So you know what? As always, we have lots to do, so let's get right to it. Okay, and we're back. And the first system that we have on the bench today is this beautiful IBM Vista PC, type 6790-21U. IBM, your nomenclature is definitely interesting. So, in the system, clearly on the front, we have what looks like a floppy drive, a 3.5-inch floppy drive, 1.44 megabyte is what I will assume for this era. We also have what looks to be a replaced 16-speed DVD ROM drive and 52-speed 2452 CDRW drive by LG. So we have that in here. Clearly, based on the beige versus the black case, it was not part of the system originally. Okay, swipping around on the side here, and again, just looking at the design, I don't exactly know the weight of the system, but it is built extremely well. No doubt to handle those nice, big, giant CRTs on top, and everything else you can throw at them, specifically if they were business class PCs. So on the side here, we have lots of ventilation. It looks like a release latch here as well to be able to take off the case. And we'll swing around the back here. On the back, we have lots and lots of dust and dirts and dust bunnies and all that good stuff. And then here we have two PS2, two USB. USB 1 is kind of segregated there a bit just by the way it is shaped, so I'm not exactly sure what that means. We have an LPT port here. We have two COM ports, so two serial. We have a built-in Ethernet port built on audio. And then we have the VGA card. And you know, it looks, I don't know if it's a breakout card or it's just a slim form factor type card that's installed in here. Most of these systems back in the day that I saw usually had the video card built onto the motherboard. So you'd have as part of the IO in the back here instead of it being here. And then of course you'd have an expansion ability, but where there's not already built on video, I would assume that this became standard for this system. And we have what looks like to be 3 untouched expansion areas here. So these look like to be designed for or came with the system originally. Then we have a power supply unit here, and it looks like there's some sticky tape residue kind of like in this kind of shape. So I'm not sure why that would have been covered up at any time at all, ever. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if this fires up without any sort of magic smoke, but we have our standard power connector there as well. And on the other side, we have Windows 2000 Professional is what the license is for this system. And then we also have a release latch here as well as additional ventilation. One thing you notice on this side, there's tons of scratches. The other side is not. I worked in a place where these systems were prevalent in the office. And when we stored them, they were held kind of like, you know, vertically, if you call it that, like this. And you'd slide them on the desk, on the floor, anything just to store them. And of course, as a result of doing that, you get all these substantial scratches. So let's go right inside. So I believe in the back here, there's just two little release latches you press in, and there we go. The case just comes off just like that, and we have access to the inside. In true IBM fashion, we have a layout of what is in this system in terms of the motherboard components and how to basically take out the drives and things like that. We've seen this on the video before on the channel before, where Lenovo, IBM tends to put these kind of stickers in their computers to kind of give you an overview of what is here, including the jumper recoveries here. It's just really handy information. Let's look at the inside and give everybody a better view here. So on the inside here, we have what looks like, again, some more duct work here that's allowing the airflow to kind of be promoted to go out the back. I'm just going to remove that here to see if I can get access to the rest of the system here. There we are. We have that released. You can see how it's kind of shaped to house over the actual fan itself. And of course, that blows the air out of the system. So there we are. It's quite a neat design when you think about it, especially in a small form factor such as this. So we have the fan, heatsink, and presumably the CPU that's in here. It is stating that it is a Pentium 4 computer. One of the things I will note, though, it is quite filthy inside. Being what's in here, presumably, is a Pentium 4 processor. Now, I'm just looking at all the different capacitors that are in here. Give everyone a better angle here as well. There's quite a bit by the actual CPU itself. The capacitors that are next to the heatsink area, specifically on Pentium 4s. I don't know if this actually is within the era of the capacitor plague, but anything generally close to a heat source can actually cause more damage or cause accelerated damage to capacitors that are of bad quality. And, you know, in this case, you know, they're all lined up hugging basically the side of the heatsink here. What I'm seeing here is the capacitors look pretty darn good. So I'm not too worried about that. And then we have our chipset here, which also has a heatsink on it for distribution of any sort of temperatures if it gets warm. So good to have that as well. I'm going to swing this around a little bit just so we have a different view. And then so we have a video card that's in here. And on the back of the video card, I'm seeing IBM part numbers by NVIDIA Corporation. It just says NVIDIA on it. It doesn't say anything else more than that. And on the other side, I'm seeing NVIDIA Riva TNT2. Now, to take the video card out, I have to take out this cross member that's here because this lifts up and out to be able to expose the bracket to take the video card out. And to do that, of course, we need to remove the CD-ROM drive here. As you can see, it just kind of clips up like that. And there's neat design by IBM for here. It's for servicing the system. So it literally has a little latch that drops down in front, which I'll show in a minute, that holds this up in place while you open up the bay. You can actually, there's two little grooves in there as well that allow you to remove this out of the system quite well. I'm going to show everyone that in a few minutes. I just want to show everybody the inside here first. So it looks like we have some SD memory here. It looks like we have 512 megabytes of PC-133 here. Not sure what the rest of the sticks are just yet, but definitely nice to have this RAM installed, and my assumption is that it's installed, so it's working. But so far, we have a complete system by the looks of things. Generally, the things I get from eWaste don't always have, you know, all the parts that are installed, so it's nice to have that there. And I say that because I'm referencing a hard disk drive that I'm seeing here as well. And then we have our DVD multi-drive that's here. We'll show that in a moment. Then we have our floppy disk drive here as well. And so as you can see, the same thing happens. There's this latch that kind of clips on the front when you open it. It's kind of gravity fed here. Just do that and it holds it up just like that. What a neat design. And now I've just gained access to the rest of the board as well as the PSU as well if I ever needed to do work to the power supply. I'm going to swing it back around here just so everyone can see the inside. Again, the design of these systems is pretty darn neat. I like them personally, and I love to see them in action. Now, the only thing I'll call out is I serviced many of these systems over the years. One of the problems that I've noticed on these systems, specifically if after time or you're working on these computers, you know, opening up, closing them up, open them up, closing them up to do different service to them, these ribbon cables that are in here tend to break internally. And so it will come up a disk I/O error, or it will come up hard disk not found, or what have you. And that was very commonplace, at least from my experience. So just calling out that if you've ever experienced that, or if that's something that you've had issues with, that was generally what it was. It was just one of the IDE cables were crimped in some form, specifically if it doesn't go back the way it's kind of folded from factory. We have our two IDE cables here, and we also have our floppy connector here going up to our floppy drive. And then we have all three of the RAM slots populated, so it'd be interesting to see how much memory we have on here. We have our ATX power supply connected here as well. It's an Aztec model AA22190. Okay, we have what looks like an audio cable that's down here that goes right up to the optical drive. And let's lift this up just a little bit so everyone can see the inside here as well. So in here, we have you can see that cross members that's there, but we have 3 PCI expansion still available. And then, of course, we have our AGP slot here. And the AGP is what's holding that NVIDIA card in place. But outside of that, everything else is looking pretty darn good as I'm looking through the board. I'm not seeing any damage. I love seeing that IBM branded board that's in this computer. Definitely, in terms of retro systems and things like that, I love seeing the older stuff. Specifically, Lenovo bought them, so anything that I can find that's IBM branded is really awesome. And then we have copyright USA 2001. So it's 22 years later, we have this computer in our hands. So I think we're pretty darn good here on the inside. I'm not seeing any obvious issues that would cause any trouble. We have our CMOS battery back here in the corner. I'm leaving it in there for now. I'm not looking at doing any sort of extensive things to that unless it complains that it absolutely needs that battery in order for it to even post. I don't remember or recall these systems requiring that, so I'm not too worried about that at the moment. Now, when I was referring to the kind of setup earlier on these systems, you can see here that like those little plastic clips of what have you just kind of hold it up. So again, that's all it is. It just sits back down in its place, and you got to be careful when you're putting everything back because wires get all, because it's a smaller area. There we go. It's all down now. But if you push this down too hard, you're trying to force it, specifically if you're putting the case cover back on. I mean, you're pushing on wiring, you're pushing on components. These wires are bumped up right up against the RAM slots. So you just got to be careful and mindful of doing that, specifically if you're replacing drives or doing different things in the system that could potentially introduce that behavior. And then on this side here as well, same idea. It just goes in like that. And that is our floppy drive. And these little latches are really, really, really handy. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. I mean, the actual design is really neat. Outside of, you have to be mindful of having a low profile video card if you're going to do any sort of expansion to this system, or low profile cards in general. Okay, I think this is all good to go and ready to be fired up. So instead of me throwing on the case and getting it fired up and then finding out it doesn't work, because I haven't tested this. This has all been done for everybody on the camera. I'm going to pop this back on just, for ventilation purposes. Outside of that, I'm going to put a monitor, keyboard, mouse, and get everything connected. So you know what? Let's get right to it. Okay, we're back. We're all set up here. So we have our trusted HP monitor and keyboard here. I don't have a mouse hooked up. I don't see the need at the moment. I took the ventilation back off because I realized that if I'm testing this, I want to see if everything's working. And it's hard to do with the ventilation shroud on there. So I just took it off. All plugged in. Let's flip that power and see what happens. Lights in the front. And a power light going on. The processor fan is spinning, but I'm not getting any keyboard lighting up, and I'm not getting any post. And I'm getting a really loud scratching noise. So I don't know if that is the hard disk, but yes, no, we're not getting any post at all from the system. Well then, let's see if we can take the memory out and do some troubleshooting to see if we can get this computer posting. Okay, I took out the old battery, and it has a date of 16 on it, so I imagine it's 2016 is when it was rated to be good to. So let's pop in this brand new battery here. It's new brand Maxell. It says 29 on it. So I imagine that is the expiry date that they're calling here. And I determined that the noise is actually coming from the fan bearing here. So I don't know if I can access the bearing, add some machine oil to that or not, but I mean, it's not heating up at all. I mean, it is working fine. It's just loud. So hopefully a good cleanup will fix that. But let's turn on the power and see if we can get post with a replacement battery. And nothing. And I'm surprised I'm not getting any sort of beep codes. I can try the post analyzer card in here for sure. But before I do that, I'm going to work on the RAM. Let's turn the computer off. Okay, and we're going to take out that stick of memory I was playing with because I'll say it again. Everybody knows every time I touch RAM, it screws up. I completely took out the wrong stick of RAM. I was not playing with that one, but let's just see if that makes a difference. We'll keep on doing that until we find potentially a working configuration. Nothing yet. Okay, we'll turn this off and do the same thing again. This time I'll actually take out the RAM I was playing with originally. That's the 512 stick. Yep, there it is right there. Take that out. I just find sometimes when you do that, unfortunately, you need some contact cleaner back in there. Okay, hit the power button again. This time I've left the one stick of RAM in there at 256. Oh, it's doing different behavior. There we go. We have post. Look at that. Exciting. Look at that, everybody. Okay, we have post. Let's look at all the good stuff on screen. I love when computers post. Okay, so we have the Pentium 4 CPU at 1.8 gigahertz. With 640K of RAM, plus we have some extended RAM here as well, of 256 megs of RAM. Then we have, of course, the cache memory here as well. We have our TAPI CD-ROM drive. It's an HLDTST, our WDVD. That's our combo drive that we have there that we went over earlier. And under fixed disk 0, we have an ST, so Seagate, I imagine, 3400 16A. So not exactly sure of the size of this just yet. Now it says here, press 11 to enter the IBM recovery program, F1 for setup, or F12 for startup device menu. I want to get the memory installed again to make sure we can at least test this RAM to see which one is bad as we went. I'm thinking, because I took out this one, and this is the one I had played with, that this one's probably the one that caused the initial posting error, where this one here was already seated and I hadn't touched it. So I bet you if I use some contact cleaner in the slot for this, that this will probably fire up with the amount of RAM that we need. So I'm going to do that first. I'm going to see if I can get the RAM working, and then we'll go on and continue on the setup. Okay, so I've gone ahead and popped in the last stick of memory here with some contact cleaner. We're going to power it up and see if it posts. Well, the fan's doing the two-stage speed sort of thing there, so I'm guessing, yes, there we are. We have our RAM counting up now. We do have our 1 gig. So we're just going to go into setup here. Okay, so we have all the information in the system. So it's a Marlin. It says system board identifier is Marlin. That's interesting. It shows $image2 as a system serial number. That's interesting as well. I don't know if that means it's a corrupted BIOS by any means by having that, or if that's intentional. So it shows a BIOS date here about 3 that's installed. So no doubt there's probably some upgrades available. And then so our system time seems to be holding. So that CMOS battery, despite me changing it out, probably still working. So that's pretty darn cool. Okay, I'm going to go to devices here. So we have our PS2 mouse enabled, our diskette drive enabled, and we have all the standard stuff here. I'm really interested about this image2, $image2 for serial number. I don't know if that's a corrupt BIOS not, or that's what it's supposed to be, but everything else looks pretty much good on it. Okay, I'm going to hit exit, and we're going to see if we are going to go into an operating system. Looks like Windows 2000. We do. We have Windows 2000 Professional booting up right on the channel. Personal fan of Windows 2000, to be honest with everybody. I never had any issues with Windows 2000 Professional. I actually used it as one of my daily drivers for a while, and I think it worked quite well. Now let's see what is on this system. Okay, we have the desktop booting up here, and I have a mouse installed, which doesn't seem to be detecting it. There we are. We have my mouse installed now. By the looks of things, looks like Windows 2000 is installing it for me. Looking up some sort of application, SASF application server. Not sure exactly what this software is. Okay, I just closed off that server because it had some PI in there, so I just removed that. Okay, under Start, we have lots of different programs here. I'm not going to go through all the different individual programs here, but it's just interesting to see a lot of business class computer applications on here, which is really neat. So I don't know if this was used as a terminal of some sort or a server of some sort. I'm going to go into my computer properties for a moment. It says here we have Microsoft Windows 2000 with Service Pack 4 installed. J-user is a registered user. IBM Pentium 4 1.8 is 1 gig of RAM, and of course support information. And I love seeing the logo on here, which means that this would have been an OEM installation installed on the system, which is awesome. Under Hardware, I'm going to go under Device Manager, and we're going to see what we have in Device Manager on this computer. Play adapters. We have the NVIDIA Vanta LT is the video card driver that's on this. Again, that was the Riva TNT that we had on the chipset, so I don't know if they're one and the same. So we have our multi-recorder that's here as well, and then we have a generic DVD-ROM SCSI CD-ROM device. I was told that when you see that in the Device Manager, that tends to be a VM type environment that installs in. So we have our floppy disk controllers, our drives, and then we have our keyboard, our mouse, monitors, network adapters, just Pro 100. So we only have a 10100 network card. SCSI and RAID controllers, says it has a SCSI controller built on. I'm not seeing one, but that must be the virtual SCSI controller. Sound, we have Legacy, but we have Sound Max integrated digital audio. That seems to be pretty standard on these OEM systems. And under system devices, I'm seeing a PFP plug-and-play BIOS extension issue there, but nothing major. Okay, let's check out my computer to see the capacity of the hard disk here. So we have what looks like it broken out into 3 partitions here. So we have a 10 gig, and a 16.4 gig in terms of capacity. It's 36, so it's a 40 gig hard drive by the looks of things. We have a working system, everybody. I just want to keep on playing with this computer now. I want to see what's on here. I want to see go through everything, but we don't have the time right now. That'll be in a different video. So here we are. We have a fully working Pentium 4 IBM Net Vista system, and I'm very excited to have it up and running. And it just took some reseating of the memory. I would argue that the battery did nothing for the system, that it would have worked just fine. I think it was me playing around with the memory that caused the initial problem, or it just wasn't posting to begin with, and just spraying some contact cleaner in the slots allowed this beauty of a machine to fire right up. Really excited to have this up and running. That'll be in a future video to get it all cleaned up and restore it back to its beauty. But for now, we can't forget, we have a second system. So let's jump on to system number 2. Okay, and we have system number 2 on the bench. Can't forget about this beautiful looking machine. I completely got lost in the first one because I just love when systems post, especially when they have hard disks still installed them. It's great to go down that memory lane to kind of see what that system would have been used for. With the date code of 2001 on the board, it really puts it in perspective. So I think that's really neat. We have the IBM Personal Computer 300GL. Now it has some writing on the front here. It says P200 with 32 megs of RAM, 2.5 gigabyte hard disk, Win95, and it says 5Z or 5.2 or something written here. I don't know. We'll see what's inside the system, but definitely dates the system a bit. Now, one thing I did notice is that this plastic bezel is kind of all broken here, and I don't love when that happens, especially on these older systems. Especially over time, the plastics get pretty darn brittle. Fortunately, I was able to recover the piece that goes here. So I think the good old crazy glue and baking soda trick and all that, and get that all kind of cleaned up and sanded down and freshened up. And, we can potentially paint this, do different things with it, retrobrite it. I'm going to be careful about all this. Going to figure out what we're going to do to restore this system. But before we do that, of course, we need to find out if it works. So we have our floppy disk drive here, 3.5 inch, similar to the other system where the front bezel on the actual system itself serves as the front of the floppy disk drive. So again, replacing it, you just take off that front plastic clip and you would reuse it. So we have our Personal Computer 300GL, which also has a broken clip by the looks of things here. So definitely something we would look at getting cleaned up there. We have what looks like just a regular CD-ROM drive. Nothing fancy, just says compact disc on it. Power button, hard power light, and our hard disk light. And it looks like a network light in the front here as well, which is kind of neat. Having the network indicator on the front, so if you're having a sort of activity, that'd be really cool. And then here we just have computer identification, nothing fancy. Okay, and around the back, again, it's really heavy. Okay, we have our power supply here, so I don't exactly know if it's proprietary to the system or if it's just a standard AT power supply. I'm guessing it's AT if it is Pentium 200. And we have a lonely COM port here, all by its lonesome up here in this area. It's interesting. We have what looks like 3 breakout areas here that are available for expansion. So, I would assume that there's a riser card of some sort that's in the system to support these kind of slots here. We have another COM port here as well. So we have 2 built-on COM ports, serial ports. So we have 2 PS2 ports, 2 USB ports, a parallel port for our printer, and built-on graphics. We also have what looks like an expansion card installed here, which is a sound card. So it'll be interesting to see what we have in there in terms of a sound card. We also have this big black thing here. Now, if you looked at the e-waste video, it is something that I had mentioned that I saw this on the case. I don't know if this is, this just doesn't come off. This is like a Kensington type setup where you would put a chain or cable or some sort of lock on this, and this is what would keep the computer from walking away. I'm not exactly sure. I mean, it looks like it's double adhesive on that and would be quite challenging to get off the system. You know what? We accept challenges on this channel, so we'll certainly work at that. So the first thing I'm noticing is I want to get this case removed, and I think there's this screw. There's only one screw that I'm seeing here, and I'm guessing that this screw is the one that I have to remove to be able to access the system by taking off the case. Now that said, flathead screwdrivers. I think flatheads are terrible. I just do. I love any other setup other than flathead. And of course, IBM and later years Lenovo, before switching over, uses flathead screwdrivers. Okay, that was my little rant. Okay, let's see if I can take off this case. Not exactly sure how that kind of comes up. Okay, there we go. Just push it forward and lift up. Okay, we'll be careful with the plastics there. I'm just going to move that down on the floor because I don't want to have anything happen to the front of that case. Here we are. We have the inside of the system. It's interesting carrying a similar design as we saw in that Pentium 4. I mean, when you think about it, if this is a Pentium 200, it's the first series Pentium, it had 3 more generations above that in design changes and things. So it's interesting to see that some of these designs are similar. I mean, not as accessible. I mean, I can't just take these and flip them up to be able to see if I can access things below. So it looks like you have to go through some rigmarole to get that going. Okay, so let's turn it around even further here so we can get a better look of inside the system. And let's see if we can do that nice and carefully here. All right, so we have sound card here. We have our riser board here. So the riser board looks like, that's an interesting design here. I don't know if you see that. I'm going to zoom in just because I want to show everybody. It looks like that this particular slot, and the way they have this riser card, which is very proprietary to IBM, I would say, is we have an ISA interface here, but we also have a PCI. Kind of, it's attached to the plastic, completely attached to it and soldered to the motherboard. So just interesting to see that design. Usually you would see them like stacked on top of each other, but not attached like that, which I think is very, very interesting. Zoom out here so we give everyone a better view. Okay, we have our sound card. So I'm going to pop out just for now that optical cable. So we have a Sound Blaster Vibra 16C. By Creative Lab. So model CT2960 is the model that's on here. So we have, looks like some external, looks like some chips installed here. I don't know if this is video memory for the onboard video. It says Oki Japan that's written on here. My guess it is because the Cirrus Logic card is right here as well. So I'm guessing that is for the video RAM. And we have an Intel PCI chipset here. We have some other things here. We have a header J29 on the motherboard. Not exactly sure what that does just yet. We have a couple of capacitors here. It looks like one of those small button type speakers that are here as well. which are worth their weight in gold in my opinion. And then over here we have, it's so cool, we have a Coast module. I'm not removing it because every time I do something like that, it doesn't work again. A Coast module is cache on a stick. So we have additional cache memory that has been added to this system via the expansion. This is officially my first computer ever seeing that as coming with the system. You know, one of my e-waste. On my Pentium 200 build that I did, I went and sourced a cache module, Coast stick, because the board supported it and I wanted extra cache memory. So it's really handy to have. And then, so this is where our processor is here. And it just says socket 7. So no doubt that it is the Pentium 200. I'm not removing it because at the moment, just because I want to see if this system posts first. Let's swing it back around here again and just look to see what else we have going on. But so far we have lots of exciting stuff. Okay, so we have our floppy drive here and all the cables are installed to that. And we have a Western Digital hard disk that's in here. And if there's any indication if this is original and that's a 2.5 gig hard drive, that's pretty darn awesome. And on this side here, oh yeah, we have some goodies over here too. Just look at all that stuff. Let's get zoomed in here so everybody can see what's going on. So here we have additional expansion. So not only do we have the option of using the PCI and IC on this side, we have the one free slot here, and we do have that ability to do the same on this side. So it looks like we have some SD RAM as the memory in here, not EDO RAM. So we do have SD memory. We have 2 banks and one is populated. So no doubt sporting what it said for memory. And it is an AT motherboard. We have the AT power here as well. And then we have built-on IDE and floppy controllers, which is awesome. This system does have, according to the diagram on that case, we do have 2 IDE connectors here available. One is populated. There it is. Yeah, okay, I see the second one here. It's hiding above. So we do have 2 here. I'm going to pop the sound card back in just because I want to see it posting with the original hardware that I found it in, get that optical cable plugged back into the sound card, and get the bench all set up and see if we can get the system posting. So let's go. Okay, we're all set back up here, and we have the computer all ready to go. Let's turn it on and see what happens. See if that power supply works. It didn't do anything when I plugged it in. Let's see. Oh my goodness, we have post. I am absolutely excited to see this on first try. Oh, this is great. Okay, we have 32 megabytes of RAM installed, which is what it said. We have 640K base system memory, copyright 1981-1996, all rights reserved, and escape for fast post. I hit pause for a moment because I did tell it to go into the setup program. So I hit enter again so that it would go. Oh, this is super. 2 systems. So we have system summary. Let's click on that. So we have a Pentium MX 200 right there. I officially have a Pentium 3, and a Pentium 4 in the desktop form factor now. Now I have to go on the hunt for a Pentium 2. But my goodness, oh, goosebumps, everybody. This is amazing. I'm so happy about this. So we have our extended memory of 32 megabytes of RAM. Then we have our system memory of 640K. Math coprocessors internal. We have our video controller, Cirrus Logic. There's our Cirrus Logic we talked about. Cache size is 256. I imagine that's our extra cache on a stick that we have enabled. And then we have a shadow RAM installed. We have our setup. Then we have our memory type non-parity. Diskette drive A is 1.44 megabytes. There's our IDE hard disk, which is 2.5 gig, and our CD-ROM drive installed. Yeah, this is just absolutely great. And date and time is, well, it's holding to 2022, everybody. I don't know what that means. That's the old battery that's in there. I didn't change it. It must be holding some sort of charge. I'm just going to go and see if we can boot into the OS, if there's one installed. It said Windows 95 on the front bezel, and we have a working spinning up hard drive on this Pentium 200. Oh, this is great. Okay, save settings, exit setup. Let's see if the system actually boots into an operating system. There's counting up our memory, our 32 megs, or 32 megs of RAM. Windows 95 startup menu. Oh, this is great. Let's go normal. Let's just see what happens. Windows 95 for Microsoft Internet Explorer. This is... look. Awesomeness. New hardware found, unknown device. Oh, must be my monitor. Okay, that's fine. I'm okay so far. And Windows has updated our clock as a result of daylight saving times. Thank you so much, Windows 95. And it's December 22nd of 2022. It's not. And it's not 8:14 in the morning, but that's fine. We'll set okay for now. And apparently there's an error. Yeah, that's fine. Hopefully it doesn't crash everything when I close it. Internet news configuration. Wow, it's just throwing a bunch of stuff at me. Just look at this. This is absolutely wonderful. Let's close down our internet news. It's probably a news group right now. And we obviously have some games on here. I'm just being careful because this no doubt has some personal information on it. And I'm not planning on showing any of that on camera. So yeah, Hasbro Interactive, Internet Explorer, Online Services, Real Player probably installed. Startup. Yeah, okay. This is great. Recycle bin, we'll close that. And I'm not seeing anything on here that is private information. No, nothing. Okay. And under my computer, there's that hard drive, RC drive, and showing free space, capacity 2.37 gig formatted, and it's showing that we have over 2 gig free. That's pretty cool. Okay, here is our device manager. For our CD-ROM, we have a Sony CD-ROM, CDU511. And upon looking that up just now, I see that it's an 8x to 16x variable speed CD-ROM drive. Disk drives are generic disk drive, of course, because that's what we have in there, but it is a Western Digital 2.5 gig hard disk. Display adapters, we have our Cirrus Logic 5446 PCI, and network adapters, just a dial adapter because we don't see any Ethernet cards in there. We have a PCI, well, universal serial bus, so we do have USB that's just not installed, no doubt a driver problem. Under our sound card, we have our Creative Sound Blaster 16 plug-and-play card that's installed. Just so exciting. Now, I'm curious why the resolution is set the way it is, and it's probably because just of the end user. Yeah, okay, that's all it was. So the end user actually chose that for whatever reason, or it was an Explorer problem when it crashed. This is awesome. We have a fully working computer here in front of us. I'm looking through it here and I'm not seeing anything really installed on this computer, actually, come to think of it. It looks like it was a really minimal installation of Windows 95 that was here. Usually you see accessories and, you know, you can go in and choose, you know, you can actually choose games and things like that. It looks like that's not on here. It doesn't matter because we have a fully working posting Pentium 200 system here. I just love it. I'm going to clean up the bench, get everything ready for the outro. So let's go. Okay, and we're back with these two beautiful IBM systems. We have our Pentium 4 with our 1 gig of memory running Windows 2000 Professional, which was a nice surprise. Definitely needs a good, deep, thorough cleaning, but overall in really good shape. I would like to replace the drive with something that matches the case much better than what's here now. Definitely part of the restoration will do that, but the NetVista machine just absolutely looks beautiful, works wonderfully. Maybe a memory upgrade in the system. I think it's running the 1 gig of memory, but you know, I think we could stretch that to 1.5. That little nudge on these systems running at the Pentium 4 definitely is helpful. And then we have system number 2, which I think I'm more excited about just because I worked on these so many times that when I saw this, I'll be honest with you, I didn't think this system was going to post. I thought we would have ran into a bunch of problems that we would have had to deal with, but my goodness, it fired up immediately. We have our Pentium 200 with 32 megabytes of RAM, 2.5 gigabyte hard drive, and remember, we have that 256K Coast module that's installed already in the system. This is just a beautiful system. And the only thing I'm missing for this system is a beige monitor. IBM branded to go with it, because I think that would be absolutely wonderful. And this would make a perfect restoration video, I believe, and getting it all cleaned up, getting it fully restored, getting all the plastics restored the best we can, and getting that going. Just two beautiful systems, both posting, both operational, so much potential with these, and lots of work ahead of us in terms of getting them all cleaned up. But I definitely think that it will be worth it. If you like today's video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. Almost 70% of my viewers are not subscribed to the channel. So please, it really helps the channel out and helps the channel grow with the good old YouTube algorithms and all that stuff. So please hit subscribe. I'll continue working to bring all this great content to everybody. And hit the notification button, change it to all. You'll be notified of new content such as these amazing machines. And comment down below and let me know, did you own one of these computers? What's your experience with these systems? What do you recommend to do with these computers? I definitely want to hear from everybody, and I definitely respond to every one of my comments. I love the interaction on the channel. Always making new content for everyone. Hope you're enjoying. We'll see everybody in the next video. Bye-bye.